Hello and welcome back to the battle room. My name is Colin, and today I have a very fun battle. So for those who do not know, I'm in NPA, which is like a team tournament style thing, and I had the honor to play against Zine, who's a Japanese player, and I thought this was a really fun match, and this is a really respectable opponent, so I thought, hey, let's upload it to the YouTube. So first things first, we see Zine's team, which is a team consisting of Thundurus, Groudon, Charizard, Regieleki, Urshifu, and Incineroar. Pretty standard Sun stuff with Urshifu. I think Urshifu's the weirdest mon here. But I decided to go with a comfort team, so I brought the second option for Players Cup, which was this Torkoal Venusaur Zacian team. And so, yeah, this is what I brought. I just didn't really counter team him or think what he was going to bring. I just was like, hey, I'm using this team. I think it's good. I think I'm good with it. Let's use it. So going into this matchup, it's really, really scary. Charizard is a big issue for this team. It usually relies on me to play my Landorus really well. And in this case, he's a Thundurus, so Landorus is a little bit harder to play well. It's not impossible to just lead like Grimmsnarl on Landorus, but it's still really scary. So I would have to play really careful around the Thundurus, and also the Incineroar is kind of annoying as well because Intimidate sucks. I lead with Zacian Grimmsnarl with Landorus and Venusaur in the back. I think, hey, he's probably going to bring his Groudon, so Venusaur being in the back is fine just because I'm going to rely on him to bring the Sun. So I also went with this lead because I didn't want to lead Landorus into Thundurus, so yeah, that was a little scary. But I wanted Landorus along for the ride because I need to beat Charizard somehow. So we're going to see Zine lead off with Regieleki and Charizard into my Zacian Grimmsnarl. Now this is nightmare fuel. Obviously Zacian doesn't match up very well against Charizard, and it doesn't match up very well versus Eleki either. Both do big damage, and Zacian is pretty scared. So this matchup's rough already, so I decide to play really, really aggressive and really, really wild. So my plan is to attack with Zacian immediately. I go for a Behemoth Blade into Charizard, expecting the max, and then Light Screen to set up for future endeavors. I don't really have a Fire Resist on the team right now. Torkoal's on the bench, so that's my only Pokemon that resists Sun. And yeah, so I go for the Light Screen here, and then we're going to see the Regieleki go for Volt Switch into Grimmsnarl to power up the Sun boosted Heat Wave here. So Zine opted not to max his Charizard, which I found a little interesting, but it is really, really favorable for me because that means that I'm going to take just a regular Heat Wave instead of a Wildfire. So Sunlight is going to turn Dirtily Harsh, and then Behemoth Blade is going to come through and connect onto Zard here, doing pretty sizable damage. Look at that. It's like a 60-70%. It's resisted. And that means if he maxed, it would do the same. And since Light Screen is up, Zacian is going to live with 8 HP, which is super clutch. Grimmsnarl does get burned though, which is really unfortunate because Grimmsnarl is actually very strong here. And now I'm not doing any damage. It's not the greatest thing. It means Grimmsnarl is kind of worthless. So I'm going to go for Behemoth Blade into Charizard. I'm going to go for Reflect because I need to set up Reflect because Groudon's a physical hitter. Both screens make this matchup pretty easy if I'm able to sweep with Landorus in the back. Like, they won't be able to touch me. And we know that Eleki is one of the last Pokemon, so Landorus checkmates that pretty hard. And if I do a lot of damage to Groudon here, the game is pretty much won in my favor. So all I have to do is do enough damage so that Landorus and his best friend Venusaur can sweep the game. This is one of those games that, like, I'm actually kind of proud of how I played it because it was pretty unorthodox. It was kind of weird to trade my Zacian in such an aggressive way. I played with no... I didn't hold back at all. This was really, really aggressive from me. And that's normally not how I like to play. So when I play like this, I always get kind of excited because it's a really fun style of play that I normally don't do in Pokemon. So he is going to connect onto both, killing both. So, you know, I traded 2 for double screens at about 70% on each, which isn't actually a bad trade in the long run here because it means that Landorus and Venusaur are going to be in an amazing spot because they haven't burned max, I haven't used max, and now my max can be used to get speed control. It's kind of a weird game, but I really dig how I played this. I'm really proud of this watching this back. So Landorus, Venusaur come in, and now this is a free Airstream and a free potential KO with Weather Ball onto Charizard. I don't risk anything. If they don't have Incineroar in the back, Landorus just wins the game. Like, it's going to be unintimidated and it's just going to be able to do whatever it wants. And then Lucky doesn't beat Landorus anyways. So as long as Landorus wins the 1v1 versus the back Pokemon, it will always win the game because Lucky can't touch me. So I'm just going to go for a simple Airstream Weather Ball. No fear Shakespeare. Easy win here. As long as I can beat whatever it is. Which at this point I'm assuming is Thundurus, right? Like, it's pretty obvious. It's a Lucky plus something. And I think that something is Thundurus. If they're saving their max like this, Thundurus is a safe assumption. It could be Incin, but that means it has to max Incin, which isn't the worst for me. So we'll have to see. Obviously, we're going to have to watch this horrible 20-minute long Dynamax animation. to make Landorus big, but we're just going to KO both Pokemon here. They could protect to stall the KOs, which isn't always a bad thing, but sometimes in certain situations can actually be a really negative thing, like, because then I'll just grab a free KO next turn while Landorus is putting on a ton of pressure, or vice versa, where Landorus grabs the KO and Venusaur puts on pressure. So we're going to see Groudon protect though, so we are going to see that. They are staggering, they don't want both Pokemon to get KO'd, so, but we are still going to get this Airstream regardless, so that's just a good thing. It does mean they can potentially stall at my max as well, which is always a good thing. It's kind of a weird situation, because if Groudon doesn't protect, it just faints, and then that's one turn that I can just, you know, now I can just KO Groudon, and then hopefully one of my Pokemon can deal with the other, which isn't fine. But it also means they are stalling max turns, which, you know, it's a negative. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary just because Thundurus can potentially sweep us in the late game. We're assuming it's Thundurus at this point, but we actually have no clue. It could be Incineroar or whatever the other Pokemon was, or Shifu. But either way, the best max for them would be Thundurus. So now Alecki comes in, and now you know, it's a little weird because Groudon did buy time for them. It's a weird situation depending on where the goggles are, what the last Pokemon actually is. It could be bad, but it's still a pretty easy turn for me. I press Sleep Powder into Regieleki, put that guy to sleep. I don't actually want to you know, like KO it with Earth Power. Also, I'm afraid it's just Sash, so I'd have to double tap, and that's a lot of investment. So Sleep Powder is just kind of a safer move as long as I hit, and then we're gonna max Airstream again. We got to make Venusaur fast. It's really important for Venusaur to be fast in this matchup because I want to win, and also putting things to sleep is strong. So like if it is Thundurus, Venusaur is now faster than Thundurus even when the sun goes down, which is good for me. So now we see the dreaded final Pokemon, and that dreaded final Pokemon is in fact the Thunder God himself, Thundurus. So it was what I was fearing. Honestly, I kind of knew it was Thundurus, like just judging by the way they were playing. They refused to max the Sard. They didn't want to max Groudon. It's probably Thundurus. Thundurus comes in, and at this point it's really scary too. What's really scary about Thundurus too is that it could have the goggles, but at this point I don't have a time to really like guess, because the goggles are probably on Zard, Thundurus, or Incineroar. It's really hard to guess. It's not open team sheet. I have no idea. And if it is goggles on this Thundurus, this is scary. But either way, I think I'm forced to go for the Sleep Powder play, just because like I have to try to put it to sleep. If it goes to sleep, then we're in a pretty decent spot. But if I were to miss, it's still very scary, just because I am forced to kill it with Landorus here. But now they are just gonna go for Max Guard, so that tells me, hey, it's not Assault Vest, which is a good thing. That means it still could be goggles though. It's either goggles or Life Orb at this point. It narrows it down to 2 items. Max Quake comes through, or Lum. It's honestly really scary. Max Quake comes through. Alecki gets knocked down to Sash, which is a good thing. Honestly, I think that them stalling the max was a really good play. They played their end game pretty well considering how much damage I truly got. They get the first turn Wake onto Alecki, which kind of sucks. But Venusaur will take this quite well. Venusaur will still be faster too as long as Sun is up. So like the web's annoying, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. The damage wasn't super bad. But the Sun does go down, so now Thundurus will be faster at after a speed boost, which is kind of important. The first turn Wakes there is kind of important because they can hit me with a potential Airstream back to back. So Regieleki is going to protect, which is a little bit scary. And then I'm just going to go for Rock Slide onto Thundurus because it's my best damage, honestly. And like as long as it's not weakness policy, I don't auto lose the game. It does a good chunk, all things considered. And then we go for Sleep Powder, but it in fact misses, which, you know, at this point in the game, we hit 1. I can let it slide. Airstream comes through onto Landorus. They know what the threat is. If they kill Landorus, then at least Alecki gets to play the game. So, and Alecki speeding up is not a good thing either, because it means that like Thunderbolt can connect onto Venusaur, which is just more damage. And at this point, they don't know one crucial piece of information. I'm Koba Venusaur. So if I ever get hit by an Airstream, I can live potentially depending on the state of my HP. So now obviously I'm even safer to go for Sleep Powder onto Thundurus. But it also means that it might be a 1v1 of Thundurus versus Venusaur in the in-game, in a non-Dynamax setting, which, you know, could favor us, could not. It's kind of a weird situation. Like, he's definitely crawling himself back into this game when I felt really confident based on the speed that I had and the Dynamax turns that I had. But now Zine is actually putting a lot of pressure on me. Obviously, Zine's a great player, and now, you know, he found some ways in. I don't think I necessarily played poorly. The Sleep Powder miss was untimely, but that's really the only mistake I've made so far. So Thunderbolt comes through, smacks Venusaur, I'm at 122. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. At this point, like, Max Airstream might even kill Venusaur. So Regieleki's going to faint. And here comes Thundurus, baby. He comes through for this Max Airstream onto Landorus, grabbing the KO. So now we have a weird situation. It's Venusaur versus regular Thundurus, out of Dynamax for both of them. So these Pokemon aren't the greatest non-Dynamax, and it is Life Orb, which is a little scary, and I miss another Sleep Powder. So had I hit that Sleep Powder, this would be game over. I just press Leaf Storm, Thundurus dies. But the game is made interesting because I missed 2 Sleep Powders in a row, which is just scary. Unfortunate, but scary. But it's up to Venusaur living the hit. I just go for Leaf Storm. No need to try and hit Sleep Powders. As long as I hit this Leaf Storm, most likely he'll die to a Life Orb tick. So Thundurus is going to protect to stall out the Reflect. Because at this point that he needs the Reflect. Because Venusaur will likely live if I'm Cobra Berry, which, you know, I am. So Light Screen wears off. And now he's going to press Fly and wear off my Reflect as well. I don't have Protect, so it's a little bit worse for me. If I had Protect, I could just always protect from these flies, and I would probably just win on time due to the never-ending Fly. But now Reflect wears off. So now it's up to Venusaur versus the world. Can Venusaur live? It has a special defense boost, which is not helping me now. And I have to go for Leaf Storm onto Thundurus. There's no choice. Fly comes through. I eat that awesome Cobra Berry, helping me live some of the damage, and Venusaur clutches it. So what's really interesting about this game is that I went for Max Quake earlier, and those Max Quake damage reductions onto Venusaur, because it reduced the damage from Alecki, was huge. I lived with 4 HP. There was no way I was living if I didn't go for Max Quake, which, in hindsight, I thought Max Quake wasn't the best play, because why would I Max Quake the Sash Alecki? I was kind of frustrated that I did Max Quake it, because I did get slowed down. But had I not Max Quaked, I think I would have lost, because Venusaur would have died. So the Max Quake ended up clutching it for Venusaur, and it ended up being a really close game, coming down to 4 HP. I do not believe the crit mattered. Like, he was low. Venusaur, it's a base 140 move. But either way, it was 4 HP. That was a close game. That matchup's really difficult, and oh man, I was really glad I won game 1 though, because when you're playing a tough matchup, winning the game 1 gives you a lot of momentum. It allows you to play even more aggressive. You can take risks that you normally wouldn't without feeling scared to. Because sometimes when you win a game, you know, you just play pretty standard, pretty normal, but in a bad matchup, you have to take risks. And I think I took a lot of risks game 1, especially with how I played Zacian in the early game, and I wasn't punished for it completely. And I think in game 2, I'm allowed to take more risks because, hey, I'm up a game. There's no point in not to. I think that's always important. I think winning, like playing risky and playing with your extra game can be really beneficial, because sometimes your opponent doesn't see it because they're less likely to play risky because their backs are against the wall. But my back is not against the wall. I'm free. My back is just feeling the cool breeze of risks, so I can just take as many as possible. So in this game, I decided to take one of those risks with my lead. I lead Grimmsnarl plus Landorus with Zacian and Venusaur on the back. I decided, hey, I'm up a game. Let's lead Intimidate into the potential Thundurus lead. So I take that risk, and I abuse the fact that I'm up a game. I might have done this anyways, but who's to say? I felt risky. So we're going to see Zine lead off with Charizard Regieleki once again, much like he did in game 1. And I lead with Grimmsnarl Landorus. Now this lead feels pretty good, because I kind of countered with him. Charizard's still an issue for me, because I don't actually resist fire. Sometimes I wish this was a Garchomp or something, so I could be faster and hit him with Rockfall. But I don't actually resist fire, so it is kind of obnoxious. But Regieleki in this situation is doing very little. Light Screen is very free, and so is a potential Rockfall. So I go for Airstream into Regieleki. Yeah, I go for Airstream into Regieleki. I'm predicting potential Protect. I'm predicting, you know, them to Volt Switch off of me into something that doesn't want to take Airstream. So Landorus is getting big. We're going to see that good old toothless smile from Landorus. One of my favorite parts of Landorus there. God, just the no teeth. I mean, I don't know if I want him to have teeth. That might be really scary. But we get this turn 100% correct. Charizard goes for Protect. Oh, baby, does it feel good. We get this Airstream onto Alecki, and we also get the Light Screen. So this is just a really, really good turn 1 for me. I have no complaints with this situation. They do go for Volt Switch, so the one Pokemon that would probably want to take this is Thundurus or Alecki. Those are the 2 resists. Maybe Incin, but it's still a good turn for me regardless. I predicted the Protect correctly. I punished it greatly, and I'm just getting a free Airstream. It's always really scary. I think Landorus versus Charizard is really weird, just because it is faster and you can hit Landorus with a really hard hit of Wildfire, but it also means that you have to take a potential Rock Fall. And that can be scary when you play with your Charizard like that. But it comes through doing half to Thundurus, which is really, really important because Thundurus was a problem last game and it almost won them in the game. So doing half right here is a really, really good situation. So now I have Light Screen up. I might as well grab that Reflect. I don't always play Grimmsnarl necessarily like this. I think Grimmsnarl is super versatile. I think Grimmsnarl is the best Pokemon, in, like second best Pokemon in the game. Sorry, Instant. But I do get to just set up Reflect here pretty freely. And then I just go for Rockfall into Thundurus there. I think it's very likely that Charizard is going to be the one that switches out or runs away from the situation, doesn't max, just because I think Thundurus is in a little bit better of a spot, and it's very obvious I could just smack Charizard with a Rockfall. So Incineroar comes in, we see all of their Pokemon right here. Incin, Thundurus, Charizard, and Alecki. Opted not to bring Groudon, which I think is kind of fair. I brought Landorus, Zacian, and Venusaur last time, so Groudon was not having a good time. It was really only used for Sun, so I do respect the adjustment here. Incin's more annoying. Intimidate's great versus 2 of my Pokemon. Actually 3. Grimmsnarl is a very strong hitter, and getting Intimidate does suck on occasion. So we go for the Rockfall here. They protect it, obviously, but this situation is still really not that bad. And we are going to Spirit Break. I actually went for Spirit Break and not Reflect, because I was threatening the KO anyways. So Spirit Break comes through. Just a nice little chunk to Incin. Like, you can't complain too much. And now we have the Sandstorm buffeting as well. So we can see that Incineroar is in fact not Goggles, which is kind of nice, which means it's another Sleep Powder target. So on this turn, I go for the Spirit Break onto Thundurus just to grab the KO at this point, and then I do decide to Rockfall Incineroar because Max Quake is pretty likely into Incineroar, so I don't want to fall into that trap, and I'd rather hit Incineroar with Max Rockfall. It's super effective, but if Charizard does come in, it means game over. I just automatically win the game. Charizard's dead. There's really nothing my opponent can do. So I think Rockfall, I end up regretting clicking Rockfall, but Max Quake would have been a really, really good, like, a really risky play, and the Charizard switch is really, really quite respectable. So Rockfall comes through, does a little smack onto Incineroar, dealing good damage. Max Quake would have been better. It would stab. Special defense boost would have been nice. And we're going to see Thundurus go for Fly, and then Spirit Break misses. But, you know, it's flying. It's not a big deal. And they go for Parting Shot. So at this point, Landorus is at -2, which does kind of suck. And that's how our good friend Zine has a chance to get back into this game, is our Landorus isn't going to do enough damage to Charizard. I'm very weak to Charizard. And if I'm not doing damage to Charizard, I'm afraid. So now Zine can kind of bring whatever he wants into here. Most likely Charizard, because Alecki is not having a good time against Landorus, no matter what Pokemon are on the field, as long as Landorus is there. So Alecki seems very unlikely, and it seems like this will be when Zine can max their Charizard. And, I mean, Thundurus is flying, so that's kind of whatever as well. It's not really that scary of a Pokemon when it's not maxing. I think Thundurus is, like, pretty bad if you're not going to max it, but it is very, very strong. It's the 3rd most used Pokemon. So at the same time, like, Thundurus is very bad when not maxed, but it is so good when it is maxed. So I go for Spirit Break onto Charizard to weaken Charizard as much as possible. At this point, Thundurus isn't really a threat. Reflect isn't necessary, but Spirit Break, if I get that nice little break off on a Charizard, it could go a long way. And I decide to go for Fly onto Charizard to actually dodge the max Airstream and the opposing Thundurus' Fly. Because I'm the fastest Pokemon on the field, I'll actually dodge Fly here, because I'm so fast. Fly is normally not a great move, but in this situation, it's kind of nice. So Landorus launches up into the air, zoop, aiming at Charizard, and then Fly misses, and then Max Airstream misses as well. So Fly, normally a bad move, was used really, really well here, I think. Yeah, I'm a little biased, but it was used pretty well there to just waste the Max turn and dodge a Fly from the enemy Thundurus. So the situation is actually not as bad as it seems now, just because I am wasting time, wasting turns. I still have 2 full HP Pokemon in the back. While they're both weak to Charizard, they're alive. So now, at this point, I'm still pretty freely to set up Reflect. Thundurus still has yet to connect and move on me. So if I wanted to, I can Reflect. I can also just keep Spirit Breaking the Charizard and weakening it as much as possible, which is what I opt to do. Grimmsnarl could taunt as well to stop Protects, and then obviously I have to continue this Fly. So when Landorus comes down, I will be getting hit with whatever move they want to do, whether that be Wildfire, whether that be Airstream. Both aren't very good for me. But for the most part, I'm doing a pretty good job of stopping the bleeding a little bit. So Thundurus is actually going to get withdrawn into Incineroar, you know, just weaken the damage. Like, I'm already doing nothing. I'm at -2, now I'm at -3. So, like, my boys aren't doing much damage, but we're wasting time. That's all we need to do so that Zacian can potentially sweep in the back. So Fly comes through, smacks Charizard, and they go for max Airstream. So Wildfire still isn't set up yet, which is actually kind of bad for me. I would rather these two tank the Wildfires, but now if they do Wildfire on the next turn, like, I'm going to be taking the periodic tick for... I'm going to be taking the damage over time for the rest of the battle, most likely. So it is kind of obnoxious if and when I get hit by Wildfire. It's more of a when, not an if, because there's nothing I can do to stop Wildfire on that next turn. Incin eats its berry, which we now know is a big berry, a figgy berry, and then we're going to see the Sandticks. The situation isn't bad though, because now they only have 1 turn of max, and I really have only taken half HP on Grimmsnarl and like 25% onto Landorus. The Spirit Breaks were very, very potent and strong for this game. The Spirit Breaks are kind of what are keeping me alive here. Just weakening Charizard over and over again just makes the game so much easier. So I'm just opting for Rock Slide. I know he's going to get faked out. So going for Fly shenanigans isn't super worth, and I'd rather just get this damage at this point because Thundurus is in the back with 25% HP. Incineroar is at half, already eaten its berry, and Charizard's at half as well. So the situation is really, really not that bad. And there's a full HP Alecki, but Venusaur is matching up very positively against this situation if I can remove this Charizard. So I decide to go for Taunt. I want to be able to hit this thing when Grimmsnarl eventually dies, and I also want to be able to hit it with Rock Slides. So Landorus takes that Wildfire like a champ. Assault Vest plus a all those Spirit Breaks make Landorus really, really tanky here. I also could, that's why I kind of regretted not going for max Quake. That Rockfall onto Incin was really greedy, and I really wish I just Quaked that slot instead. So Landorus, he's burning up from the Wildfire, and so is Grimmsnarl. So the Wildfire burning on these guys is probably beneficial just because I want to keep the last two as healthy as possible. Now that max is over, I can play the game again. I press Reflect with Grimmsnarl finally because, you know, hey, I don't want to take this Flare Blitz full powered, and at this point Grimmsnarl might die at any second if they decide to target down Grimmsnarl with Flare Blitz, so I think that Reflect is my best play. I want it for the end game. I think it's really important for Zacian and Venusaur to help against that Thundurus in the back. So I just go for Reflect finally. It's going to get a lot of value. Most likely that will last for the entire rest of the game as well. Just like Wildfire is going to cause me issues for the next couple turns, Reflect is going to cause them issues. So we're going to see the Reflect go up, protecting my team from physical hits. Screens are so good. Screens are so good. Heat Wave comes first, obviously. This does, like, negative damage. At this point, I'm just afraid of crit. Like, that's the only thing Charizard can really do. I do miss Rock Slide here onto Charizard, which is very, very unfortunate. If Charizard goes down there, that's just money. That means that Zacian and Venusaur will never have to deal with the Fire-type moves. So, it's a little bit unfortunate. Grimmsnarl does go down here to this Flare Blitz, though, which is fine. Which is another positive thing here. Now I'm able to bring in one of the potential sweepers, and we're still getting cooked by Wildfire. So, with critical hits being the only way that I can possibly lose this game if Zacian gets crit, well, I mean, like, just ruin the game completely. I still could win if I get, I can still lose this game, but barring a crit. But I decided to protect Zacian because I don't want to take that chance. Getting crit is a really, really bad situation, and if I can avoid that, I'm going to do it. Obviously, Landorus can still get crit as well, but this just lowers the odds for me. I don't want to lose Zacian to a dumb crit, and I think Protect is just a very, very safe passive turn, so I decide to go with Protect onto Zacian. It's just a safe play. I don't want to die. And then we're going to see Incineroar actually reveal Protect, which is very, very strange, very scary. And Charizard goes for Blast Burn onto Zacian, which I didn't expect, really. I really didn't. And then Landorus finally connects this Rock Slide onto Charizard, and Charizard goes down. So I'm really glad I protected because they did go for Blast Burn. Like, the critical hit definitely would have killed me. And then Landorus is going to die. He did his job. But I'm really glad I protected there, like, no point in risking it. Instant revealing Protect was really wild as well. But Zacian is still going to get cooked by these Wildfire Flames, which is not a good thing. So now the light screen wears off, which isn't a huge deal. Like, it's just a Lecky. Thunderbolt will do a lot of damage to Zacian, but, like, at the end of the day, it's not as bad as, you know, like a Flare Blitz. So Reflect is still valuable as well. So Venusaur has to come in here, obviously, as the last Pokemon. And my opponent has to choose between either Alecki or Venusaur. Alecki is looking a little scary here, but Venusaur's matchup versus Alecki is quite positive, so it's not the end of the world there. And if I do Sacred Sword the Incineroar slot, it's a guaranteed KO onto Zacian, or onto Incineroar, or onto Thundurus, with how low Thundurus was at the point that it switched out. So this is a pretty easy turn for me. I decide to go for Sacred Sword onto Incineroar, and I decide, actually I think I go for Behemoth Blade, yeah. I go for Behemoth Blade, it will kill Incin, it will kill Thundurus, it's fine, it's a stab. And then I go for Sleep Powder onto Alecki. I need to put this thing to sleep because I don't want to be taking multiple turns of Thunderbolts. Because if I just go for Earth Power, I'll knock it down to its sash now, but then next turn it could be kind of problematic. They could play Protect Mind Games on me. I just want to knock it out from the game so that it's not causing me issues, obviously barring a first turn sleep. So I decide to Sleep Powder that guy, obviously. I also am kind of forced to press Behemoth Blade into the Incin slot because I can't risk taking a Flare Blitz. I'm at half. I will faint with either of my Pokemon, honestly. So I have to hit Incineroar here with Behemoth Blade. Alecki goes for Electro Web to slow me down. It doesn't matter yet. It does matter for the Thundurus, but it doesn't matter for Incin. I'm always faster. Zacian is so speedy. See you later, Incin. Dog on dog violence. Or, I guess, dog on cat. Incineroar's not a dog. Incineroar explodes anyways. It's knocked out. We hit the Sleep Powder onto Alecki. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. At this point, the game is pretty locked up. There is some Protect Mind Games. There is a potential Wild Charge KO that could come through and finish off Zacian, which would be very, very unfortunate. But for the most part, the situation is looking absolute flames. So Thundurus has to come back in. It's 2v2 at this point. Thundurus is at literally 2 HP. So I decide to double tap Alecki. I'm predicting Thundurus to fly. That is what I'm predicting here, fly or protect. So I'm going to kill the Alecki while I can. Obviously, I could have killed Alecki last turn, or I could have just like Earth Powered and then I would only need one Pokemon to hit Alecki. But then Alecki could protect. There could be a lot of mind games, like if I didn't actually Sleep Powder. I think Sleep Powder delaying them creates a better turn for me than if I went for, you know, the Earth Power last turn and just broke the sash. So Regieleki stays fast asleep, and we're going to see Superpower come through from Thundurus. Zacian eats that up. They don't want to take the recoil and faint, so Superpower is really their only option. Zacian lives, Behemoth Blade connects, and obviously Earth Power will as well. Alecki couldn't do anything. There was no first turn wake. It was guaranteed to sleep this turn. And we grabbed the KO into Alecki with this nice little double tap. There's not much they can do at this point. I think my play was relatively safe, just because it was guaranteed. The Thundurus could protect, it could fly, and obviously, we have Superpower. So, if they went for Wild Charge, they would have fainted. As we see how low they are, they had to go for Superpower, which seems like a weird play, because, you know, like Wild Charge is stab, but that recoil would have done them in. So Superpower is going to come through on the Venusaur at this point. There's no hope, and it's going to die to Life Orb, netting me the win. And, you know, giving me a win once again over Zine. Zine is a really good player. This was a really fun set. He did stream it as well on his YouTube channel. Obviously, he's speaking Japanese, but if you want to check that out, you can check out his perspective as well. I'll link in the description below. But I had a really fun time playing Zine. He's a really great player. And yeah, it was a really fun set. I hope you guys learned something from it. I think it was a pretty fun matchup just because it was kind of a bad matchup. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. We do post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you like Pokemon content, I'm here for you. But thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next Monday.